Destiny 2 is down for maintenance and the new raid Root of Nightmares is coming tomorrow, so what better thing to do than to show you the 3 Strand builds that I think are OP enough to hang in a contest mode raid. Any one of these builds will turn you into the Giga Chat of your fire team, and trust me, they are all incredible. I'll show you a build with infinite suspend, I'll show you a build with infinite ability regeneration, and I'll show you a build which basically plays itself. So stay tuned and eyes up Guardian, let's get right into it. Alright, so since I haven't shown you a hunter build on Strand before now, let's start with that one. For your dodge, it can be whatever you want, but I would advise on Gambler's Dodge since there's a mod which interacts with your melee in a very special way. Your melee is Threaded Spike, where you throw a rope dart which bounces between targets, damaging and severing them. The dart will return to you once it's done, returning melee energy for each target hit. Press your melee button just as the dart comes back to you to catch it and increase the amount of energy that's returned. For your grenade, choose Grapple. We're going to use this mostly for the grapple melee. On the aspect side, we have Ensnaring Slam, where you activate your air move to consume your class ability energy and dive to the ground, suspending all nearby targets on impact. Using this ability will extend your class ability cooldown time. This aspect will be the bread and butter of the build because it will suspend everything in your vicinity, and we're going to be able to spam it with our exotic, which we'll get to in a little bit. Your second aspect is Widow's Silk. You'll have one additional grenade charge and your grapple will create a grapple tango point where other people can use it to freely refresh their grapple. This aspect will be the one that you'll be able to change once we get another aspect for the Strand Hunters, but for now we don't really have much of a choice. For our fragments, let's start with Thread of Continuity. Suspend, unravel, and sever effects applied to your targets have increased duration. We'll be suspending pretty much everything in sight, so this is one that you need to use. Then we have Thread of Warding. Picking up an Orb of Power will grant us Woven Mayo. I use this fragment in each and every one of my Strand builds because Woven Mayo is almost a 60% damage reduction buff, so it's kind of a no-brainer really. After that, we're going to use Thread of Mind, where defeating suspended targets will grant us class ability energy. And again, since we'll be suspending everything in sight, using this one just makes sense really. And for our last fragment, we have Thread of Generation. Dealing damage generates grenade energy. Since we'll be using the grapple melee a lot in this build, this just makes sense because it will return a lot of grenade energy to us if we hit a bunch of mobs together. In terms of armor stats, hunters are incredibly hungry. You need your resilience to be as high as possible, your mobility to be as high as possible, and your discipline to be as high as possible. Our exotic of choice is what will enable us to suspend everything in our sights, and we'll be able to do it very consistently. We're going to use the Radiant Dance Machines. Activating your dodge ability while near any targets will allow you to dodge additional times for a short period of time. This exotic is the actual peanut butter and jelly of the build. All you need to do is activate your actual dodge near any targets. After that, you can start jumping in the air and activating your air move. This will have you dive down and suspend everything in your sights, which is incredible because suspended targets can't really shoot at you. Not only that, but you should be able to get at least 3 ensnaring slams per activation. It's a very high APM build, and this is the reason why. Now let's get on to the mods. On our helmet, we'll use hands-on once, and then we'll use ashes to assets twice. We're doing that because the grapple melee counts both as an empowered melee attack and as a grenade ability. So every time you get a bunch of kills, you get a lot of super energy for it, and the Hunter Strand super is really busted right now. On the arms, we're going to use heavy-handed and firepower because every time we get a kill with our grapple melee, that will generate 2 orbs of power for us. Then we'll use a grenade kickstart just to get our grenade back quicker. If you've watched my previous build videos, you probably know what's coming, but on the chest we're going to use charged up twice. This will increase the amount of armor charges we can carry from 3 to 5. Over here you could put some resistance mods in there, but I prefer to have a lot of armor charges. On the legs we're going to use Insulation twice, as every time we pick up an orb of power that will grant us class ability energy back. And we're going to put on stacks, which will allow us to get 2 armor charges every time we pick up 1 orb of power. So after a grapple melee we'll basically have 4 armor charges already. And this definitely comes in handy in a build where you want to get your super as quick as possible and you want to spam all your abilities. For the class item we'll use Distribution, which will reduce all of our ability cooldowns when we use our class ability near any enemies. And to round out the build we're going to use Utility Kickstart. This is used simply to enable us to have our class ability much more often. One thing I should mention is that you can experiment with using Focusing Strike on your arms. It will return class ability energy for each melee hit you get, and since your melee bounces across multiple targets, it will refund a lot of it. The gameplay loop is pretty simple. Once you get into an engagement, dodge in order to activate your Radiant and dance machines. From then on, start jumping and using your air move to suspend everything in sight. After that, you can start using your grapple melee, which will give you a lot of super energy and it will give you 2 orbs of power every time you get a kill with it. You can also throw an actual empowered melee in there. Just check out the insane amounts of super energy you can get back. It's actually kind of nutty. From then on, it's just rinse and repeat until you get your super. On the weapon front, you can choose pretty much whatever you feel comfortable with. And you know, whatever does a lot of damage. And since we're already kind of deep into the video and a lot of people probably left, let's do the Warlock and Titan as quick as possible. Let's start with the Warlock. First, we're going to use Healing Rift for the survivability. For the grenade, pick up the Shackle Grenade. It will suspend everything it touches once it makes contact, but we're not actually going to be throwing it. On the aspect side, pick up Weaver's Call. Right now, we don't have any choice, and this is the one aspect that can be changed once we get a third one for the Warlock. The second aspect is the actual important one. It's Mindspun Invocation. Hold your grenade button to consume your Shackle Grenade and activate Weaver's Trance. While Weaver's Trance is active, Final Blows will create an explosion which suspends nearby targets. This combined with our exotic weapon and our exotic armor piece of choice, which we'll get to in a little bit, will actually suspend everything in sight. As for fragments, you can pretty much copy the ones that we're using on the Hunter build. To make this build work, we'll need 2 specific exotics. Our exotic weapon will be the Osteostriga, an exotic SMG which shoots poison rounds. It's a weapon of sorrow which spreads poison every time you get a kill with it. Then for the exotic armor piece, we're going to use Necrotic Grip. Damaging combatants poisons them, dealing increased damage over time. Defeating a poison combatant will also spread the poison. And this is what enables this build to actually play itself. That's because the poison kills also count towards Weaver's Trance, so every time you activate it and you get 1 kill with it, it will start spreading poison and suspend to every nearby target. There's going to be times when you can just emote and enemies around you will just start dying if you get even 1 kill with Weaver's Trance and then the poison. In terms of armor mods, we're going to keep it very simple. On the helmet, pick up Kinetic Siphon in order for your Osteostriga to generate orbs of power. Then you can put whatever else you want. The arms are even simpler, just put 3 grenade kickstarts there. This will enable us to have Weaver's Trance constantly because once you eat your grenade, the buff stays there for quite a while. By the time Weaver's Trance is over, you already have another grenade ready. On the chest, you already know it, pick up Charged Up twice. On the leg armor, pick up Innervation twice because that will refund grenade energy on all of our Orb of Power pickups. Then pick up Stacks on Stacks for the extra armor charges that you're going to get from it. On the class item, we pick up Double Bomber because every time we activate our Rift, we'll get some grenade energy back for it. Since Reaper is disabled, right now I'm using Empowered Finish to round out the build, but once Reaper is back in, make sure you pick that up. It will generate an Orb of Power every time we get a kill after activating our Rift. The gameplay loop here is incredibly simple. Just eat your grenades, start shooting at things, they'll get poisoned and suspended. You can even start emoting. Like, who cares? And that's pretty much the build. It can be improved in some aspects, but we can discuss those at a later time. And let's move on to the final build, which is the Titan, and it's honestly the most brain-dead build I've ever played. For your barricade, pick up Rally Barricade because it comes back quicker. For your grenade, pick up the Shackle Grenade because it gives us an extra source of suspend. Why am I saying extra? You are going to find out in a sec. For aspects, we have Into the Fray. Destroying a tango or casting your super will grant Woven Mail for nearby allies. While you have Woven Mail, your melee regeneration rate is increased. I think this is really strong because we'll have Woven Mail pretty much constantly, which will give us a lot of melee energy back. The second aspect is very important. It's Drenger's Lash. Activating your class ability will create a ripple in reality which travels forward along the ground, suspending and damaging targets it hits. This is the aspect which will enable us to keep every enemy on the battlefield suspended. For the fragments, we have Thread of Mind, where defeating suspended targets will grant us class ability energy, and we'll have a lot of suspended targets around us. Then we use Thread of Generation for the grenade energy refunds. Thread of Continuity in order to suspend targets for a longer time. And then the next one is pretty much a flex pick and you can choose whatever you want, but personally I've went with Thread of Wisdom. Defeating suspended targets with precision final blows will create an Orb of Power. Let's move on to our exotic armor piece of choice because that's the thing which will make this build like completely broken. We're going to use the new exotic leg armor Abeyant Leap. It comes with Puppeteer's Control. Drenger's Lash spawns 2 additional projectiles, tracks targets much more aggressively and travels farther. Gain Woven Mail whenever you suspend targets. I'm not even sure I need to explain why this is broken, but it will basically suspend much more targets. It will give you Woven Mail every time you suspend a target, and that's pretty much it. You don't need much else. It's incredibly broken because those 3 projectiles track very aggressively and they create a very wide arc. And this is the type of build which doesn't really need armor mods, but I'll tell you what I'm running anyway. For the helmet, just use the siphon mods which correspond to your weapons. On the arms, I'm using Grenade Kickstart twice with Bolstering Detonation, which grants class ability energy every time we cause damage with our grenade. And that's really good because you can open up with your Shackle Grenade, you get some grenade energy back, and if you've already used your barricade, you get some energy for it as well. On the chest, I'm using Charged Up 3 times in order to get the maximum maximum amount of armor charge as I can. On the leg armor, I have innervation twice because every time we pick up an orb of power, that will grant us grenade energy back. And of course I have stacks on stacks in order to increase the amount of armor charges we get for every orb of power pickup. Then on the class item, I'm running Bomber twice, which will refund some grenade energy every time we use our barricade. And I'm using utility Kickstart, which will refund some class ability energy whenever we use our barricade. As for the gameplay loop, it's the most simple one of all. You just need to find a group of enemies, use your barricade to suspend them all, start killing them, then, you can use your grenade whenever, you get your barricade back incredibly quickly, and that's pretty much it. When I told you this is a very brain dead build, I was not kidding. But that's pretty much it for the video, Guardian. If you're still here, thank you so much for watching, and please hit that like, and if you really liked the video, make sure you sub to my channel for more builds and more Destiny videos as a whole. I hope you enjoyed the raid race, whether you actually participate in it or you just watch it on Twitch. Good luck out there in the field, Guardian, and I'll see you in the next one.